All right, we're here with Chris Lee, Vandy Sports. Big year for the Commodores, year 3 under Clark Lee. They said it going into spring. The goal this year is to make the postseason. Did they accomplish that goal?
They might. It's going to depend on the schedule, and I think they got a good open. They've got 3 of the first 4 they're going to be favored. The Wake game in week 3 in Winston-Salem is going to be a big one because they'll be an underdog, but Wake won't have Sam Hartman. And Wake will still be good, probably favored, but that's a game that if you're going to get to a bowl, you need to win, and it's winnable. And road venues have not been, I guess, as troublesome for them as home, and you know the situation there. But I think if they can get 4-0, they've got a shot. And what will be interesting is Game 5 will be Kentucky. That's a game they won in Lexington a year ago. And then Game 6 will be Missouri. That's one that they lost last year, but they were maybe a first down in the last 2 minutes from winning. So, I mean, I'm not saying they're going 6-0, but there's more of a path for them for a good start than there almost ever is.
What SEC game do you think is most winnable? Is it the Kentucky or Missouri? And because another one that I like, and I know fans are optimistic there, but I'm thinking that Auburn game. Late in the season, first year under Hugh Freeze. Everybody, when they say Hugh Freeze, they just say, oh, he beat Nick Saban twice. They don't say he lost to Vanderbilt twice. They don't say he's got a losing record in the SEC. And I'm not sitting here saying he's a losing coach, he's terrible, but year 1, complete makeover of that staff and really the roster. I don't think that game's a given either.
Yeah, that's one that I would circle. I don't think Auburn is what Auburn's been. It's a little bit of a rebuild. Brian Harsin didn't recruit at a really high level. They're changing offenses. But I said this, I would rather have Auburn the first half of the season than the second half when they're getting used to Hugh Freeze and the ways of doing things, because sometimes late in the year it clicks. And so they got that game later in the year.
Yeah.
It is in Nashville, which probably helps. But that's the one caveat I'd put. But, yeah, I would put that on the list. And Florida and Gainesville, they've won down there a time or two. They won last year. Florida, I think, is probably a bottom 3 or 4 team in the SEC. Some might disagree, but I would think those are 2 more on the back half of the schedule that if you're going to say, let's say they win 7 or 8 by some miracle, and I'm not saying they will, but if they did, I think those would be 2 that they would get.
What has impressed you the most in 2 years under Clark Lee?
I think the change of the culture. I mean, he took over a wreck. And usually when Vandy makes a coaching change, it's not a great situation, but that was worse than normal.
Yeah.
And I think coming in, and he tells stories of the first meeting that he ever did of kids wouldn't make eye contact. They were slouched over in their seats. And he told a story, I think, last year in spring practice. He said, we went out one day and we've got a Saturday scrimmage. I've got a bunch of kids on the field, 2 or 3 hours before the scrimmage. He said, I picked up the phone to go yell at a coach to say, hey, we're supposed to have these guys sleeping in. And found out it was a player-led workout before scrimmage. And that was kind of one of his first indicators that he felt he was changing the culture. Last year they won 5 games, which was, the losses weren't pretty, but in the wins column, that in my mind put them a little bit ahead of schedule. I just think that the speed of progress and culture change was at a time where it was just morale was through the bottom of the floor.
Yeah.
Bad. I think to me to be able to get kids excited about it again was big.
Can I ask you about the Ray Davis situation? For a lot of people that aren't paying attention, it wasn't that he wanted to leave Vanderbilt. It almost felt like he had to. Can you kind of explain to listeners that situation and how that led to him in Kentucky?
Yeah, I think that was. I mean, sometimes it's not easy to get in grad school there.
Yeah.
And this is a baseball analogy, but I had somebody tell me, hey, look, if you take the top 25 kids in the portal in baseball, they might be able to get 5 of them in.
Yeah.
And baseball players are, probably a little more academically minded than your average football kid. Grad school is another thing. There's been a lot of times they could have kept kids, they couldn't get them into grad school. That's always been a little bit of an issue. I'm told it's better than it's been before, and to throw stones at Vandy for not getting Ray Davis in grad school might be unfair because I don't know what his grades were or weren't.
Right.
But, look, it's more of an issue for them than it is other schools. I mean, he was a fine player for them, best player they had on offense a year ago, and I think he'll fit in well at Kentucky.
Yeah.
How well is Vanderbilt positioned in the NIL world? Because, I mean, it just depends. School to school, it's different. But I think I've heard them say, we're going to prioritize the guys on the roster, which was the intent of the whole thing anyway. But we all know the other schools in this conference were not going to do it that way. But do you think they are positioned, at least maybe just in philosophy alone, to be successful in the SEC?
Well, I mean, look, comparatively, I'm guessing they're 14 of 14, but it's more than I would have thought. They got a couple of basketball players. They got one back, and they won allegedly a war for another transfer, which I mean, it's been a few hell is frozen over moments on the beat the last few years. One of them has seen them spending the money that they're doing on facilities. You walk over there right now, and there's a giant hole in what used to be the closed end zone. There's going to be two really nice buildings, and I'm not saying they got the nicest facilities in the SEC, but Mike, I'm guessing they're spending about $500 million on everything. It might be a little bit more, and some of that might be inflation. We live in times where things are a lot more expensive than when they started this. But between that and being able to pay, I mean, they could have lost C.J. Taylor last year. They didn't. They could have lost Will Shepherd last year. They didn't.
Right.
They could have lost A.J. Swan last year. They didn't. No, they did lose a starting defensive back, Jajias Richard. They lost him to Miami. I think that had something to do with it too. And they're not going to, I think they lost a couple kids in recruiting that way too. But the fact that they're spending anything and they got boosters on board and the school's kind of behind it, that's not something I would have predicted 3 years ago.
Yeah.
What do you think the facility upgrades, specifically the stadium, what do you think that does bare minimum for Vanderbilt? Is it respect? Is it, at least we're spending something to show future players that, hey, we are committed to turning this thing around?
Well, I mean, it's ironic because the minute that they do that, here comes NIL and all these other things, and you can, facilities used to be the thing. That's what got kids there, and now it's like facilities. Let's go get the cash. But
they had to do something.
Well, it's kind of like saying you need a car to get to work, right?
Yeah.
And okay, well, you need a car. We just all need a car. Well, what if mine's got holes in the floor and you can see the road and you're driving a Lamborghini, and that's the SEC. You at least need to get a more serviceable vehicle.
Yeah.
For the optics, if for nothing else. So yeah, I mean, it's going to have to make a difference. I mean, they've had nothing. That stadium, they basically built it or upgraded it in 1980, and they haven't done anything to it other than rip out the turf every few years and paint the walls. I mean, the bleachers are probably the same ones that have been there for 40 years. They needed to do something. It's going to look a lot better. It won't be probably till 2025 until it's done, and I don't know why they couldn't get it done faster. To me, they should have. A&M rebuilt the whole stadium in a year.
Right.
For $450 million. I don't know why. Now, look, it's more of a challenge here than it is in College Station because look around you, you see the construction cranes literally out the window that I'm looking through as I'm looking at you. It's a little harder to get construction here because it's everywhere.
Right.
But that's my one criticism. I wish they would have done it faster. But like I said, if you'd said 3 or 4 years ago they're going to spend that kind of money, I would have said you're crazy.
I know Shane's a huge A.J. Swan fan.
Oh, yeah. This is his year, ain't it?
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, sometimes you see kids that have got a lot of pressure on them that sophomore year.
Right.
And I'm not just talking Vandy, just in general. Sometimes it just crashes. He's going to have a lot of pressure. I've dropped the Jay Cutler label on him in terms of arm strength, and maybe that's unfair. But, I mean, look, I've been going to practices there for 20 years. I've seen every quarterback they've had. He's the only guy that's in that ballpark.
Okay.
And he's not. That's probably unfair because he's not Jay athletic.
Right.
Jay Cutler was an all SEC, first team All-State shortstop in high school. He was All-State basketball player.
Right.
And of course, you know what he was in football. And AJ Swan's not that kind of athlete; he's just a football kid. But the confidence in the arm. I mean, I watched them last year. They went to Northern Illinois, and at the time it was Northern Illinois was probably better rated preseason than it ended up being.
Right.
But it's September, and sometimes teams are closer to being good. When they go up there and they're down, 10 or 14 points, and he leads them from behind, and he throws 4 touchdowns and no picks. He makes a throw to Ray Davis that you can look up. I mean, there's about a window about that big, and he threw the ball probably 40 yards in the air.
Right.
And when you're doing that in your first start on the road, I don't care if it's Northern Illinois or who, that was a big-time throw. And that game got my attention, getting the start, having all the pressure on you, leading them from come behind win. He only threw 2 picks all year. Now, health's going to be an issue. He had trouble staying healthy a year ago, and so I'm going to keep an eye on that, but the tools are there.
Yeah.
How big of a loss do you think Mike Wright will be?
I don't think it'll be a big loss. I think that they wanted Swan to be their guy ahead of camp. I mean, I was hearing talk about that already. They've got – everybody forgets they've got Ken Seals, who in 2020 started the whole year, had 2 or 3 300-yard passing games, pretty accurate. Frankly, I thought Seals might have had a better spring than Swan did. But Swan's their guy, and understandably so. There's a bigger upside there. But he's a kid who stuck around. He's in year 4. He's played for a bunch of OCs. They're finally getting the same one back-to-back, which is going to help everybody. But I think that, look, they're not going to run a system with A.J. Swan that's going to be ground heavy.
Yeah.
With Mike, he was a 600-meter guy. That's a different universe in terms of speed. A.J. Swan only runs when he has to.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. To me, it was apples and oranges what they were going to do with those guys. And they've got a guy that when they go to Seals, if they go to Seals, he's a lot more like the guy that's their starter.
Well, obviously Swan got banged up a little bit last year. Have you noticed anything in camp? Maybe he's put some weight on. He's moving a little bit better. I mean, you don't think health's going to be like an ongoing concern there, do you?
Well, I mean, his issues last year where he got hit in the head a few times. And they blocked decently well. They allowed fewer sacks than they did the year before. I don't know how much that was getting rid of the ball faster or not. I think they just protected better in general. But, yeah, I mean, I'm sure he put on a little bit of weight. I didn't notice the weights last year and this year because most freshmen do. But, that was just a matter. That wasn't an arm issue or a leg issue. It was just, you getting hit in the head.
Yeah.
Any school you're gonna be held out.
I got you.
Do you think this is the year we start to see some of that defense that I thought we were getting under Clark Lee? And admittedly, I mean, what he inherited, it's not like he could just come in and snap his fingers and the defense was going to be great. But they've been awful at times. Let's call it what it is.
Yeah.
Do you think they take that step in year 3?
Well, I mean, they've been awful for 3 or 4 years running. They gave up, 35 2 years ago and 36 last year, something like that. It's been bad. I think they gave up 8 yards a throw last year, a little bit over that. And I say per throw, that takes sack yardage out of it. So when the ball actually got in the air, it was even worse. They're going to have to be better. I just don't think they had a lot of personnel, to be honest. They've not had the speed in the secondary. I don't think that the rest of the league's got, and they haven't had a pass rush. And that's a really bad combination. When you can't get to the quarterback and your guys aren't as fast as the guys covering. And like you saw that blow up several times last year, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, the teams that could really get after you.
Yeah.
But then there were some times like Kentucky, where Kentucky gave up, 41 sacks a year ago. They got to Will Levis. They made stuff happen. They won a game because of that. I think they're better on the defensive line, no question. They've also got a lot of guys coming back like Nate Clifton, Christian. They're not household names in the SEC, but there's value of guys in the league where you can put 7, 8, 9, 10 guys on the field that don't kill you, and that they're getting more to that spot. They've got some younger guys I think are going to after the passer better, and so I think that's their hope. I still have questions about their secondary safety. I think they'll be okay. Corners where I'm really concerned. I don't even know who it's going to be yet. I mean, it could be B.J. Anderson, and that other spot it could be any one of, I don't know, maybe 4 sophomores.
Yeah.
And that's their recruiting was better. That class they brought in 2 years ago, they targeted that as our get better, get more athletic class. But you see a lot of dudes that are first rounders in the NFL that first year starting, they struggle. There's just a learning curve. So to me, it's that, and can they get a pass rush this year? I think the second one they'll answer better. The first one we'll wait and see.
I got you.
The one thing I really like about Clark Lee, it seems like his teams at Vanderbilt play better at the end of the season than they certainly do at the start. That's everyone's goal, but it's easier said than done. I think a lot of people are sleeping on just how much better Vanderbilt was at the end of the year. Because of the Tennessee loss, it was so lopsided, but heck, they had a 2-game winning streak in conference play. I mean, there was a lot of people thought Vanderbilt was going to win that game because Tennessee just got upset. They've got nothing to play for. Do you think people around the league are kind of sleeping on the momentum that Clark Lee's built?
It's hard to say. I mean, you could argue that maybe Florida and Kentucky. I mean, because look, when they go to Lexington and win that game, they're on a 26-game SEC losing streak. Now they come close. They had a shot at Missouri a couple weeks before, so there were some warning signs. But to me, when you've lost 26 straight games, and every time you play a game in your house, there's more people there rooting against you than for you, and all the other stuff. I mean that's a lot of stuff to overcome, right? And so teams might have been overlooking them, but they had enemy number one looking in the mirror too. I mean, I would think that that's going to make it easier if you're fill in the blank with whoever they play. You can just point to film last year and say, hey, guys, they might be picked last in the league, but Kentucky and Florida thought that too, and they both got beat.
Right.
I think if you're an opposing staff, that makes it a little bit easier sell than when they lost 26 in a row. I mean, you could say that all you want, that, hey, you got to watch out for these guys, but when you got a losing streak like that, how seriously are 20-year-old players going to take you? I don't know. So I think that'll get people's attention, but it's also going to get them confidence too, and confidence is a big thing for them. They just didn't have much of it, so it's going to be interesting to see how that all washes out.
Did you come on the field after that Florida game? I was looking for you. I didn't see you there.
I can't remember if I was down there or – I mean, usually we're getting to the press conference and just trying to make we don't miss it.
Yeah.
So I think I was down there for a little bit.
Yeah,
but
that's cool.
Yeah, it was – yeah.
Do you have any reaction to NCAA going easy on Tennessee? And feel free to give us your hottest of hot takes. I mean, the rest of the SEC seems like, what the hell? I mean, I guess we can just openly cheat now and there's no penalties.
Well, look, I've wondered this, and I said it the day that everything dropped and whenever, and I was like, okay, how do you now – all these things that were legal yesterday are now, you know, there's no speed limit.
Yeah.
Right.
So I've always kind of wondered, like, the question I had for a few years is, like, how are they going to reconcile those two things? The NCAA is also, I think, when's the last time the NCAA took a really bold stand on anything in the NIL era? I mean, it's much different now.
Yeah.
And you hear the thing about not wanting to punish the kids. I don't know, the fine kind of seemed like that's the thing that satisfies everybody.
Right.
I mean, fans don't care, right? They're not paying the $8 million fine.
Right. And they remember the wins. You can vacate them. That does
take
nothing,
them away.
you know?
Yeah, I mean, I heard something interesting this morning. The league lobbied really hard for Tennessee not to lose a bowl game, and they didn't. That seemed like probably the please everybody.
Yeah.
Punishment other than maybe the other 13 fan bases. But, yeah, I mean, I didn't know what was going to happen. I do wonder if NIL is not a thing now, does it look differently? But it is what it is.
Last thing I got for you, Chris, really appreciate your time. You do a great job, Vandy Sports, Southeastern 14. The fans that love this show, they'll love Southeastern 14. You cover all SEC. You guys are doing a great job. Are you changing the name, though? It's 16 now.
Yeah, we you know, fortunately, in one of the few times I thought ahead, we bought Southeastern 16 when we founded the company in 2021. Now, look, I didn't know it was going to be that quick. I think we bought 18 and 20 just in case. But
let's buy 24.
Yeah,
just thinking ahead.
Here's a lesson in branding. I was having this conversation with somebody this morning because it's the second time I've been asked that. Because, like, look, the internet's been around for a minute now. And so to get a domain name for something as popular as SEC football, I was like, you need something that's going to catch people's attention and not be that long and whatever. So I thought that's pretty good because if you're looking at it, that's probably not too close to get you sued by the league, but everybody knows what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
You know, and the minute you stake your brand with that in there, it's like, maybe I could have made a better choice. But I spent the whole off season thinking about what would it have been, and every time you look, whatever you think of is taken. So I guess we did okay.
Hey, before you go, can you tell our audience where's the easiest way to find all your work?
Yeah, Vandy coverage, go to vandysports.com. We've got a podcast, so we usually upload that to the website. And then Southeastern 14, go to YouTube, search Southeastern 14. That's where we park most of our stuff there. And just looking forward to a great year of covering both. It'll be fascinating.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was great.